For this week's debate, I will be discussing the punishing of criminal offenders over placing a greater emphasis on mental health. The sad reality is that the criminal justice system is full of people with mental health issues. Over the last several decades, we have seen a growing awareness of mental health and how to treat mental health patients. Whether someone is born with a mental health condition or it is acquired over the course of their lives through trauma, stress, or perhaps the effect of going to war, mental health is something that 1 in 5 Americans deal with on some level. The issue that is complex is that many of those same Americans commit crimes in this country also have some sort of mental health issue. Approximately more than 60% of jailed inmates have a mental health condition of some kind, and between 20 and 30% of state and federal prison inmates have a mental health condition, with an estimated 10 to 15% of those cases being severe. The issue is that this is the criminal justice system, not the mental health system. It is costly to taxpayers, as well as complex in trying to assess the level of mental illness and how that should be handled. Missouri alone spends over $225 million a year annually on incarcerating prisoners with mental health illnesses, and in California that figure is close to $800 million. Having a mental health condition does not excuse someone from breaking the law in this country. There should not be a get-out-of-jail-free card after someone has committed a crime and claiming they have a mental illness. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, currently being held at a Supermax facility in Colorado, one of the most notorious criminals of the last 50 years, who killed 3 people while injuring 23 and keeping the country on edge as he mailed out explosives over the course of almost a decade, has been diagnosed with schizophrenia. Some would argue that he should be in a mental health facility and not a Supermax prison. However, where would the justice be to all the victims and their families that have been affected for life because of his actions? The more lenient the system is with using mental health as a crutch for criminal activity, the easier it will be for criminals and their lawyers to avoid justice. Criminal malingering is a term used to describe someone faking a mental illness to escape facing justice in a prison and instead be sent to a mental illness institution. This is a fairly common tactic used by criminals. In one study of 879 prisoners, 17.5% of prisoners found incompetent for their trials were later found to be faking symptoms. Memory loss, or amnesia for instance, is something that is claimed by 45% of homicide offenders and 9% of violent crime offenders. This is a tactic that goes back many years and was used by Nazis to try to avoid justice for their crimes against humanity. This is something you can't take a blood test for or do a brain scan for, and it's something that is very hard to detect, and along with that, easy to fake. One could argue that the process of using a mental health condition for less punishment should only be used in certain situations. However, that leads down a slippery slope and could be manipulated very easily by a slick-talking attorney or a criminal with good acting skills. One study done in 2005 showed that about 75% of criminals with a mental health diagnosis had been arrested before. A study done in 2017 showed that criminals with a mental health diagnosis have a 9% greater chance of recidivism after 1 year of release, with that percent going up to 15% after 5 years of release. If we are not tough on punishment, these statistics will continue to increase. The United States is already spending more than $225 billion annually on diagnosing mental health disorders, and the resources are out there to deal with mental health before it comes to the situation where someone commits a crime and uses the excuse of mental health to escape jail time or ask for leniency for something that could have been prevented. In conclusion, this debate is not trying to marginalize mental health illness, but the fact that it cannot be prioritized over justice and the punishment that goes along with that.